All right, I need someone to, we're gonna approve the agenda. Give me a motion to approve tonight's agenda. Nick,
Second.
all right. I can do all those in favor. All those in favor say aye. All right, the consent agenda that consists of the minutes from the March 7th City Council regular meeting. A contract with Frontline Warning Systems in the amount of $600. That's for the tornado sirens. And the appointment of Nate Bartz to the Animal Control Commission. And the claims. Give me a motion, please, someone. Nick,
Second.
any comments, questions?
I got a couple.
Go ahead.
So first of all, this approving the contract to Frontline Warning Systems. Claim says it's already paid, so I don't know.
That was
What-
last year.
What are we approving?
Colton,
Go ahead, Heidi.
I haven't paid it yet. I held the check. So if you guys don't approve it, I won't send it.
And City Administrator Kofod said he didn't have authorization to approve this contract without you letting you see it, so that's why it's on the consent agenda.
And then I have some claims questions. So I seen that Action Sewer came out and cleaned the Thomas Street for $717.50. But then I also see Lynch Plumbing charges $250 to clean it also.
They were out there to try to get a service cleared. And it turned out it was our main. So we paid for that service. to be cleared because of
Okay.
the home.
All right. And then you're probably the one you'd ask about this too. Did we get a new furnace for town hall for $10,600?
Yes, it was 2 furnaces and an air conditioner. The furnace in Melissa's office went out, has gone out over the years multiple times, and we've been told they need to replace, so they got replaced, and one in the basement. The older of the 2 burned up, had no parts to replace it with without kind of just rigging it up, so we talked to Adam, and he said to go ahead with replacing those.
Okay. And then the other question I had was $154 for meals for Zach Murdoch.
What's your question on that, Colton? It's he went on a conference and that's where we paid out for a few days.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
Okay, I need to bring something up on the claims is Impact 7G for $10,000. We did not get that grant. Adam got a email.
We didn't vote on much.
This was a water quality grant for the meadows, which was kind of shovel ready for some work in the meadows.
We did.
That's a whole different, downstream widening is a whole
That's
different
it.
deal, which we'll discuss later. We didn't meet the project didn't meet I don't know if we didn't, or the project didn't meet the minimum requirements. And Adam sent an email back to the grant people, kind of miffed about that we didn't meet the minimum requirements. I guess I'm questioning if $10,000 is kind of tough to swallow now. I thought we had better assurance. I know it's just nothing's 100% assured, but I thought it would have been, we didn't even meet the minimum requirements. So I kind of thought, and Adam thought too, I hate to put words in his mouth, that Someone, they maybe should have known we weren't gonna meet the minimum requirements or didn't meet the minimum requirements to
Well,
apply for the
why
grant.
would they do that? They can take our 10 grand and
I was gonna talk to Adam tonight about that for the meeting.
Yeah, I know.
Obviously, he's not
I
here.
have a feeling we may want to table that 10,000 for now, is what I'm,
I think
is
that's
what I'm getting
I
at.
think that's fine to have a discussion.
Yeah. I don't know if Dave can shed any light.
Melissa is on call in that 7G. I don't know if she would have anything to say about it, but she was the one that helped put that application together and was discussing that with.
Melissa, I don't know, I didn't even see the grant before it got submitted, but did you? Or do you know anything about the minimum requirements?
I do, and I did see that email that came from the Iowa Finance Authority. They responded back that they did use that language that we didn't meet the minimum requirements, but what they're referring to is the minimum points required to move forward. So we met the minimum requirements in terms of having all the documentation to showing what they wanted to see, but it's a scoring system in that for each item you scored 1 through 10. And so you needed to have a minimum number of points. So all of the minimum documentation was included. It's that the project overall, they decided was scored too low to move on to the next round. I do know I did follow up with Iowa Finance Authority and requested a meeting so we could get some feedback on that application. I know they received dozens of applications and we did request the maximum amount, which is what we typically do. Usually they'll come back and say, hey, you can't have the full amount, but we can give you this much. And there's more communication. This is a brand new funding opportunity that was out there. They had $5 million total and the maximum request was $500,000. I thought this project had a really good shot, especially since there's so many things going on in the watershed. So we're gonna have a follow-up meeting with them and then I will report back to you guys on what was needed, what we could do to improve that application. There is an opportunity, there is a chance that this funding opportunity is going to open up again because there has been so much interest. I offered it up, we would redo the application at no charge to the city, resubmit when that opportunity does come up. We can still use sponsored project funds as a match, even if we're holding out and waiting for that next opportunity, that funding opportunity to come up again. So I was very frustrated by Iowa Finance Authority's response. Also, they usually provide, that's not their typical response. We submit a lot of grant applications. We always get a lot of correspondence back from them. It's rare that we don't get approval to move ahead with some amount, even if it's not the full amount we request. So I will follow up with them again and request a meeting so we can go through this application and see what didn't meet their expectations on it.
Okay, so do you feel there could be another chance for another round of funding?
That's what I've heard. Yep. And that's it's not confirmed. But they allocated all of the funding and that was their goal. They wanted to allocate it quickly so that they could show that there's a lot of interest in the program. And I know that they have a lot of funding coming through just in the last 6 months and they need to spend it. And water quality is, a huge importance in Iowa. And there's a lot of interest in it. So I think that it's going to come up again. A lot of others think it's going to come up again. So that it's something that I can keep in my eye on. At a minimum, I want to get feedback back from Iowa Finance Authority on the application, because even if this particular opportunity doesn't come up, there are other grants that come up throughout the year for water quality that we could apply for also. So it's just good to have an application in waiting because this one was prepared pretty quickly. In terms of usually we spend, a good month and a half or longer on, depending on the grant requirements. And I think we put this together in about 10 days. And so, yes, all the information was there. Can it be better? Of course, we can definitely improve it. And we would absolutely recommend doing that. However, the Iowa Finance Authority recommends that we change it. We would do that at no additional charge.
So if we approve this tonight, you would do a redo for no charge with the same grant at a minimum,
Correct.
I would hope.
Correct. And I can't guarantee it's going to come up. There is talk that opportunity is going to come up again. And I think this would be a good project for it, especially since there's so many other projects going on in the watershed. And that was something that we tried to emphasize in the application, that there was previous work done on Hoover Creek. The contract that we're requesting approval on tonight, that's another project that's going on. And so just showing that there's so much work going on in the watershed that really helps to secure additional funding for more work in that watershed.
Do you have a handle on the points that we did not score on of what can be?
No, but I did request that from Iowa Finance Authority because there is a scoring matrix. And that's what we based the documents that we included in the application. We based it on that scoring matrix. So that's what I've requested from them. And then I also requested a meeting.
Too bad. I mean, we did promise to pay, I guess. So if they're willing to do a redo for us, if it comes up, I guess I'm okay with paying this. Anything else, anybody? Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve the claims. So let's go ahead, Leslie.
Councilperson Goodweiler?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Sexton?
Yes.
Stulman?
Okay, presentation, open communication forum. We have Claire Olson. We'd like to hear what you have to say. We cannot act on anything tonight, but we'll listen to what you have to say.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for your commitment to public service. It makes this place a better place for us and lots of other people. I'd like to offer you a challenge to educate yourselves and to think about in the future making a financial commitment to an issue. So let me I like to talk in general terms about this. Domestic violence, which includes all violence against a family member. Iowa is there's a couple of different rankings done by different associations, but we're generally ranked in the top 5 in the nation. Sometimes as high as 3rd in the nation in domestic violence. And there were various, I was just able to do a quick search. The National Network to End Domestic Violence has a lot of information, the Coalition Against Domestic Violence. And in the last 2 years, domestic violence shelters lost 35% of their federal funding. That has been restored this year, but trying to make up a 35% cut for 2 years places institutions in difficulty. In Iowa, about 45% of all women of all ages are victims of domestic violence, about 29% of men. We know, ironically, a lot more about the victims of domestic violence than we do about the perpetrators. And I think that goes back 50 years when the questions were, well, why would a woman tolerate this? Did a woman dress in a certain way to instill this? Questions which look now rather naive. But the if you want to put this in a larger context, 15% of all violent crime is domestic violence based. And ironically, when women are perpetrators of domestic violence, they're more likely to use a weapon, a knife or a gun. The most dangerous place in the home where most domestic violence occurs, is the kitchen. And the World Population Review instituted a program that 5 years ago, which 22 cities have signed on to declare that freedom from domestic violence is a fundamental human right. And the Domestic Violence Intervention Program, which we relied on in various ways, based in Iowa City, has a shelter house, but they also have an understanding with the landlord for an apartment to build in Cedar County. They also run a crisis line. They also run assistance with police calls. And I had experience with this a few years ago in Springdale. I had a call at 3 a.m. in the morning. A friend's daughter called. And she was afraid the perpetrator was still in the neighborhood. So I got in the car and went. And when the cops arrived, they arrived with the Domestic Violence Intervention Program volunteer, which is extraordinarily helpful because the police could concentrate on looking in the neighborhood for the perpetrator, whereas the DVIP volunteer could stay with the victim and actually stayed with us throughout the hospital and for a couple of hours when she returned home. So it's easy for me to come up here and say, well, just give the DVIP more money. They need it. There's lots of people that come to you saying, we need more money, and this is a serious problem. But I think we need to educate ourselves about it before you start thinking about how much money you give. It's not, many times I think people come here with physical needs, but these are emotional and safety needs. And I think you want to talk to your police chief, see what kind of statistics he has about the numbers of domestic violence calls there are in West Branch, how they're handled, or how much DVIP uses them. And next spring, there's a group of us working on this. Next spring, the show choir from the West Branch High School will be putting on a private fundraiser for the DVIP program. Last but not least, it's a matter of talking to people as well. 55 years ago more, when I started practicing law, I was flooded by these items, absolutely flooded. And I approached the problem with various stereotypes. Well, this is a low income problem. Until Manville Heights walked in constantly. That this was something that women didn't tell other women about. They had, every woman client I had told a sister, a mother, a girlfriend, usually another woman. But the advice they were being given in 1976 and the next few years was, well, that comes with marriage. You have to suck it up. And I was one of the women to help start the first shelter house in Iowa City. And credit should really go to the lesbian community of Iowa City, because they were the ones that started that practice of trying to provide a safe shelter for women. And I think it's because they love women and they honored women. There's the big need, if you want to think big, met with the College of Public Health back to recently and said, it's 50 years later, and where's the prevention? People have lots of theories. It's the way you raise your children. It's the way, it's it masculine toxicity, what's going on. Women, they don't know very much, ironically, about how to prevent it. So if you have $25,000 to $30,000, the College of Public Health would be perfectly willing for you to set up a research program to look at that. So, but the only, I haven't done all the research here, that's why I'm enlisting here as research assistants, but the Cedar County Board of Supervisors gave $5,700 last year to DVIP. This year, that's been increased to $10,000. To my knowledge, no other city, no other governmental entity gives money to the DVIP program. DVIP services about 22 counties in Eastern Iowa. And so There are always ways to make West Point better. I know that's what you work towards. So I ask for your moral intelligence on this. Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
Thanks for your work, Claire.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a public hearing, first of all, on the fiscal year 2023 annual budget. Is there anyone live or online to discuss the city annual budget, which we will be for resolution next?
I can talk about it, Roger. This is Heidi.
Okay. I guess now's a good time. Yeah, go ahead, Heidi.
Well, as you see from the staff, sorry, Roger, go ahead.
Well, I told you I would tell you that's a $17 million, $0.2 million budget. The majority of which is wastewater treatment plant, roundabout, and East Side Water Main project and
So the majority of it's borrowed.
projects.
Any
Yeah, we're
money
borrowing.
we got.
yeah, so.
Good.
Other than that, it's pretty ordinary budget. So go ahead, Heidi.
Well, and yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So that is the biggest jump for fiscal year 23 is the borrowing of money for the projects that Roger mentioned. Everything else stayed about the same. Adam put together the staff sheet that also gives some more background information as to some things that were highlights or will be highlights for next fiscal year 23. The transfer of funds to pay for the fire truck pumper, the I-80 utility location project, which we will get reimbursed for, but we of course need to put it in the budget. Same, just bonds getting paid. There was general fund budget. We started it with negative $200,000. And we were able to then have a surplus of $20,000. With the road use tax, we started off with negative $120,000, and we were able to cut that expense, or where we started off at negative $7,000, which is still in the hole, but it's better than the $120,000 where we started. We did have to make some cuts to certain things, especially through equipment set asides, some programming cuts, or having to raise more money through donations. We did cut one part-time position for Public Works, and but we were able to, of course, maintain our current full-time staffing. So there were some cuts we had to do in order to get to those numbers, but there is no other way to do that. And as Roger stated, we have some projects that will get funded, and which we've talked about, which is, the wastewater treatment plant, Wapsie Creek Widening Project, the roundabout, and the East Side Main reconstruction project. We had also we had talked about raising some money, raising the budget for CDG through motel hotel tax, and also establishing a Heritage Square set aside project for the future. And now all departments will have set asides for capital projects. For instance, if the city office needs a new roof, we'll start saving money for that. If City Hall needs, like what just happened now with the furnace, we'll have money set aside for projects. So we have that for every single department now.
Okay, thank you, Heidi. And having said all that, we are raising taxes only 12 cents.
That's correct.
That's pretty good. Okay, we're still in public hearing, so anyone else here publicly to speak? Otherwise, I will close the public hearing. And we will move on to resolution 2022-24, adopting the final proposed fiscal year 2023 annual budget. Give me a motion, someone, please. Nick and Jody. I don't have anything else to say. Got a lot on the plate. I'm gonna get some things done.
One question I have, which I'm kind of not understanding the wording of it, he's not here to answer. But it says budget continuous. First of all, it says we're still $7,000 in the hole. Did we never get a balanced budget? Are we passing a budget that's not balanced?
It is, Colton, it is balanced. I mean, in some ways, we set our own budget. I mean, it's not like it's not balanced. There's certain things that, for this year, for fiscal year 22, we were already we were over budget. So every fiscal year, we start a new budget and we can make it whatever we want it to be. With the understanding, though, that if we have major projects like the ones we do, we'll have to raise taxes in order for us to get those done. So it's not like it's balanced. I mean, we have ways of, for instance, we're going to take out bonds to pay for our debts and all that stuff. So I'm hoping I'm answering your question. It's not like we won't have money to pay for it.
Well, that's
We just set our own budget every fiscal year.
Balanced budget, so it has to be.
that negative 7,000 you
That's
see
just
is
road use
is
tax.
road use tax only. It's not the entire budget.
Where do you see that? It says,
Right budget.
it says general fund budget started at $200,000. They cut, okay. Okay,
Yeah,
but we're still, all right, so they made it up the other way.
it's
And then
made up
what-
somewhere else.
And then the other question I have was, it talks about wage increases of 4% for jobs below market and 3 to 3.5% for positions below the market. Well, which one is it?
I think he missed.
Must be above.
I'm
think you
understanding
put it
that
on
as to be, there's some employees that are that far below the average wage at 4%.
Correct.
And there's some that are closer to the average rate wage that would be at the 3 to 3.5% increase. The way I read it.
So, and from our wage committee, we talked about this, and so over time, we are in hopes of bringing our employees up to the average to meet with other communities and stuff. This isn't gonna get them there.
Oh, I understand.
So this we don't have the money to do it right now. So over the next 5 years, we kind of plan to get them to where
Gotcha.
the 4% is not going to get them there. The cost of living is not going to get them there. So we have to do the 3.5 to try and help get them there a little bit this year, a little bit. And then we'll do it again next year, and then we'll,
So is this above, this 4% above and beyond the cost of living adjustment?
So Colton, I think and like I said, I don't know, but I think what Adam was trying to say is, wage increase of 4% for jobs below market and 3 to 3.5% for positions above the market, meaning there are certain positions, if they're above the market value, then she would only, do 3.5%. And so I think that's what he meant by that. So if they were below, he was going to do 4% to get them up closer to where they needed to be.
Okay, that makes more sense than below.
Well,
She explained it better than I did. A lot better. Thank you, Heidi.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Adam's got a plan to equalize an equalizer. Okay, any objections, any comments to our budget? If not, let's vote, please, Leslie.
Councilperson Goodweiler,
Yes.
Stulman,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Sexton.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Adam and staff, for working so hard, and Heidi. It's not easy, I know this, is this your first one? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll get better, I promise.
Not opinion. This was the best.
I'm
one.
This was a tough
promise.
one, it really was. We've had more painful ones for us, I'm sure. All right, resolution 22-25, approving professional services agreement with Impact 7G to assist with the design and construction of the state revolving fund sponsored project, Wapsie Creek widening. A motion someone.
Moved.
Okay, so I might have Dave explain why they're,
Yeah, I'm a little confused.
yeah, they're kind of the specialists at the water quality thing, I believe.
We applied for the sponsored project, DNR, which is associated with the wastewater plant. We had the application prepared, collaboration between BK and Impact 7G. Given the nature of the project that we're looking to use this on, which is eligible for sponsored project funds with the stream widening, there is a you can see them. What's called a toolbox. Let's take one and pass it around. There are a bunch of what modules or views, as they call them, that you have to comply with in order to use this for the project to design the stream improvements. Impact 7G has gone through the training and have done this on other projects successfully. And, modules have to follow closely and get reviewed by project reviewers to DNR, and you have to check all the boxes and make sure you've done everything appropriately in order to be eligible to use the funds. So Impact 7G has put together a scope, and you'll see there are a number of steps in here, and they've broken out the fee for the various steps in order to complete these tasks. And there's a significant amount of evaluation that has to go into this in order to get the information, go through the toolbox. So Melissa is here to answer any questions, but that's the overview. And since they have experience of doing this and have the training to do this, but they provide a services agreement to perform this, and it goes all the way to construction administration. For the contractor to understand how practices. So the fee is on page 9 of 11, the breakdown between tasks 1 through 5. And you'll see the data collection is the largest part of this. And if you look through the scope, they outline the various steps that are included in that data collection. So I've reviewed this. I've talked this over with Impact 7G well, and we recommend that we approve this contract. This comes out of the funds that we were awarded to the sponsored project. So it's not anything additional. There's about $555,000 put towards the construction, but this is in order to meet the requirements to be able to use those funds.
Does this take the place of your work?
No. So, for example, if we weren't doing the river restoration part of this, the SRF fund, we would simply be doing the overbank work where we are widening out. This is going to be different type of work, has a lot more to do with the water quality, not so much flood protection. We're going to collaborate with them. It'll reduce some of what we need to do because what they do is going to dictate what we do
Right.
to some degree. So we've already went through and outlined the area that we need for flood protection. Theirs is going to be more targeted towards using these funds to be able to use SRF monies to do some of the excavation, some of the earthwork to defray the cost of the overall project from what the city has to pay.
It's primarily a water quality project.
What they're doing is a water quality project, but we're doing is flood.
So is this for more than just the downstream widening project?
This is associated with the downstream widening project. So this is the creek channel restoration and some of the overbank area, but what we're doing is beyond that for flood protection. But we'd like to use the SRF funds to pay for the creek channel portion, which is going to reduce the amount of excavation and work we have to do in that area from the city standpoint, because without the SRF funds, the city would be responsible for 100% of the creek widening. And by doing this project, it's going to take part of that earthwork and some of the work that takes place down there and use the sponsored project funds. We'll enhance that by widening out further beyond what they're doing with this channel to take care of the flooding issue.
So this is part of that 700,000.
Yes, 719 that we were on.
So is this project taking all that money, or is there other projects we're gonna be able to do with that money?
We'll look at it, and as we've talked earlier, if we can use some of this SRF money to pay for match, if we're able to get that other grant to go, we'll try to get this fit to the project so that we have that money available for the match. If not, and there are some things we can do to make this better, we'll try to make sure that we leave a little room because there are pretty fluctuating costs right now. But we'll try to use what we can out of this money for this project.
So if we don't use all this money, how long do we have to use this money?
We have, Melissa, can you fill us in a little bit as far as what the rules are with the sponsored project and when the end point is associated with the primary project loan?
Sure. The sponsored project, when you have to begin paying on that, I believe when you start paying on your SRF loan.
So what happens is when we have substantial completion on the wastewater plant project, if that falls before June, then that June is when we would start paying back on the loan. If we hit it in August, we wouldn't start paying back on the loan until the next June. And it just depends on the timing of it. We have that window when we have the ability to use funds for sponsored project.
So we have a year.
So you're saying next June?
No, it'll be beyond that before we have substantial completion on the wastewater. We have likely 2 years.
So if we have leftover, can we use it for upstream?
We have identified a number of projects in the application and those are all eligible.
Good. All right,
I don't think anything upstream was included in that, though. Most of, this is a clean water project, so.
Yeah, so we'd have to look to see what was in that application. There might be some things a little bit upstream, not clear up in the watershed, but just upstream, for example, up by College Street Bridge.
Oh.
In that area, we had identified
Oh.
some locations up there.
I was, yeah,
Most- yeah.
okay.
I just
All right.
did this and once they accept the sewer project, then they paid us, Corville, they paid us like in 14 days, they paid us back for everything we spent already. So they're very receptive, they want the money out the door too, so just have to get the sewer project finalized.
I think one of the reasons we chose this project is because you were doing the flood mitigation work there, and we were hoping to put those out for bid at the same time, and there could be some potential cost savings there.
Project and the sewer project could be,
Creek widening.
yeah, the creek widening and the sewer project could be bid. Well, it's already bid.
But creek widening in this
Creek widening
project,
and the water quality.
restoration project.
so it's all gonna be one project.
Oh, I always thought they'd be one project.
Separate funds. They gotta be
Okay,
separate
all right.
projects.
I guess my question is before you start doing designs and stuff like that, don't you have to have the easements and all that stuff taken care of? How's that going?
We have already
Yep.
sent the information off to Catskill.
And she stopped by my office on Friday when I was out of town, so I will be contacting Kim on this week to,
Soon.
yes.
And then I've spoken with Root, and he's agreeable to it. He wants to see whatever we can get done down there to help prevent flooding. So met with him already, and then we have a couple others.
Roger again.
Willing to listen.
Yep.
Take his building down.
Yep.
And Martin, I've spoken with.
I've got a trust up.
I talked to Bruce Barnhart, who bought the Robbins property. He's agreeable with this.
So,
We have a couple others that are going to be delicate, and I'd like to have a little bit better idea of exactly what the impacts are, because it's going to be very close. But the major property holders, we've spoken with, and have either an arrangement in place or we have. and like I
Yes.
said,
Can you give us a better example of the water quality, what is entailed in the water quality that makes a project viable for this?
I'll let Melissa talk to that since she put the application together and deals with this on a regular basis, if you don't mind, Melissa.
Sure, yep, no problem. So I think this will be I believe our 6th SRF sponsored project, and we've done several stream restorations, and sometimes there's wetlands involved too. But what goes into the sponsored project when it comes to stream restoration work is we do a stream assessment. And so we're going out into the stream, taking survey data. We're looking at the stream profile from upstream to downstream, looking at elevations, looking at cross sections across the stream, looking at the bank full, like how often is that bank filling up? Every 1.5 years, every 3 years. We're looking at sediment and taking sediment samples. We're identifying impairments. So if the stream's been straightened, if there's flow modifications, if there's been changes in vegetation, just looking for evidence of degradation. So we'll spend about 3 to 5 days collecting that stream data out in the field. And then we do the same thing on just a smaller scale on a reference reach. And so we'll go out to another stream in the area, and there may already be one that we can reference that is in good condition, that we would try to replicate those conditions on this stream. So we go through this assessment process, and this process was developed by Iowa DNR. And there was a lot of other agencies involved and experts and engineers that were involved in creating the toolbox. And David mentioned that at the beginning of the meeting, or at the beginning of this item, this council item. So we go through this process, we do this assessment, we use the toolbox, which is basically a spreadsheet that was developed by Iowa DNR, and that helps us to choose practices that we can implement in this section of stream. Generally, we're looking at doing natural channel stabilization, so using wood and logs in different ways, strategically placed rock. Other things that we would want to do is reconnect the floodplain, and that's something that'll also assist with flood mitigation, is creating oxbows, which is generally just a secondary channel that the river can flow into during high precipitation events. We'll do some reshaping of those steep banks. All of this creates additional storage. It reduces peak runoff rates, reduces erosion. So those are the kind of things that we're looking at doing that qualify as a water quality project on a stream. And then also we just create natural buffers around adjacent to the entire stream length also.
Natural
Does that answer your question?
would be prairie grass or grasses. Not
Correct.
Not cropland.
Correct. Yep. So yeah, that buffer helps to divert some of that runoff that flows overland directly into the stream. We want to try to capture as much of that as we can before it goes into the stream.
In general, though, Jerry, what we're looking at is with the watershed assessment, trying to determine what impairments there are either on this stream or the stream. And there are certain impairments that are listed, and if we can help to reduce the sediment load or E. coli or different things that the stream can be cared for. That's targeting water quality, and that's what we're trying to do, to reduce our impact on that downstream environments could potentially be reduced.
Isn't some of the data collected from that other thing that we pay $8,000 for every year?
Lower Cedar.
Huh?
Lower Cedar River.
Stream gauge.
No, the gauge.
So there's a gauge on the College Street Bridge that USGS comes in and asks us for. That gives us stream flow information. USGS has also gone through it, and they were doing this at the same time we were doing our watershed assessment, taking water quality samples. So there's different agencies that are doing this, and that's going towards different grant opportunities, giving us background data. So that when we say that we have impairments, we have certain loadings of different things that we can identify what those are from sampling and use that in grant applications.
I thought part of the reason why we kept that was to help with,
It is.
To gather information, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
all right,
Okay. Get back and vote. I guess I have a question. Who's responsible for to say the grasses and are we gonna have to take care of those? Or
We will have to take care of
is it on
those,
landowners' property or?
but we do have in our program that we have a certain period that we would do maintenance to make sure that it gets established. And Melissa, is that a 3-year period that we had talked about?
Correct.
We have somebody-
Yep, so we will go out and monitor the vegetation for a period of 3 years. That just helps. That's the critical time that we want to make sure that that vegetation gets established so that long-term you don't have issues and there's just less maintenance overall long-term if you can get it well established within that 3-year period.
7G doing that monitoring?
Correct.
So is that part of the funding then?
That's built.
Yes, that is covered by the sponsored project funds.
If it needs repair or patching. that- Suppose the contractor would put up some sort of warranty for 3 or 5 years or so.
There would be a bond associated with this, and if they had things that didn't take for whatever reason, they would have to come back in and make sure that works. If there were a flood event and it was determined that the flood damaged that.
Yeah.
We get into a situation where we have to either look for recovery funds if they're available or some other way to try to get that repaired.
Okay,
It's a good possibility.
yeah.
How warranty grass goes. How warranties on grass goes.
Okay, thank you very much, Dave and Melissa. So I think we need to move on with this and get it through. Any other comments? Go ahead, Leslie.
Councilperson Miller,
Yes.
Sexton,
Yes.
Stulman,
yes.
Goodweiler.
Yes.
All right. Resolution 22-26. Authorizing the city administrator to enter into a contract with Lighthouse Hotel Development Group for the purpose of a hotel feasibility study in the amount of $7,700.
So moved.
Please.
Second.
I don't know if there should be much discussion on this or not. We should do it. That's the
Who
hotel.
does the study?
Who does the
Lighthouse,
study?
The Lighthouse Group does.
Oh.
Then we
Yeah.
have control of it, so
It's our study. We own
yeah,
it.
instead of
Oh,
operating.
We do.
I thought the lighthouse was
The hotel?
No, they're
No.
they're the
Yeah.
agency that does the studies.
So I know it's not on here, and I was gonna ask, Adam's not here, how long is this study good for?
I think he said 2 years.
Yeah.
He said that last time.
I know, but I wasn't sure if he was certain, or I know he said he was gonna look at it. I was just curious.
Right now, about 2 years, about.
Not gonna get it each year. Curious.
Okay, Any other comments? Go ahead, Leslie.
Councilperson Miller.
Yes.
Sexton,
Yes.
Goodweiler,
Yes.
Stulman.
Yes.
All right, we have a number of 28E agreements, resolution 22-27, approving 28E agreements between the city of West Branch and the Board of Trustees of Cass, Gower, Graham, Iowa, Scott, and Springdale Townships for the purposes of fire protection and other emergencies.
Moved.
We do this every year. Let's vote, Leslie.
Councilperson Miller,
Yes.
Goodweiler,
Yes.
Stulman,
Yes.
Sexton.
Yes.
Resolution 22-28, authorizing an internal loan and approving the purchase of a Pierce Velocity PUC tanker pumper. I don't know what PUC is. Anyway. Motion, please.
Moved.
Second.
This is an internal loan, so coming from stormwater? Where's it coming from?
Hotel motel and
Hotel.
Hotel.
That's right.
motel lost. Yep, and selling of the existing truck.
Any questions, anyone? Go ahead.
Councilperson Miller,
Yes.
Sexton,
Yes.
Stulman,
Yes.
Goodweiler.
Yes.
And finally, resolution 22-29, approving a 28E agreement with Johnson County regarding the Herbert Hoover Highway and Cedar Johnson Road improvements called the roundabout. Motion, please.
Moved.
Second.
All right, so what, anybody have anything to say?
Assuming Kevin has read this over with a fine tooth.
Yeah, and the costs match up with what we've talked about, and Dave has looked at the drawings to make sure that they're accurate from what we're talking about. So yes, we believe this is in compliance with what the latest discussions were that we've had with the council over the past, how many meetings we've talked about this. Yep.
Just looking for our final estimate, 700 and some thousand,
Yeah, so it's
772.
605.
606 is a construction cost. And then there's some fees for design and right-of-way acquisitions that are included also.
On our side of the. project,
Yes. Mhm.
which should be very. Okay. Comments, questions, anyone else?
So I'm assuming the really dark line on our map here, that's Johnson County's.
I believe that's correct,
They're
Dave.
taken care of and we're taking care of that. Everything west of the dark line.
Yes, I believe that's correct. Dave's looking at his pictures to verify.
Sheet you have in front of you, but the one
This
that
one there.
shows- Yeah, so the dark line down the center and then it curves around and jogs over to the northwest. That is the division line that we agreed upon. That covers the west half of Cedar Johnson Road for the area that includes the roundabouts. Anything beyond the turning part of the roundabout that is north of that, that falls under that 77-28 agreement, where West Branch agreed to take on any future maintenance or reconstruction costs for Cedar Johnson Road
For 2005.
for 2000.
So that's funny that that agreement, the 77 agreement, has the southern part of Cedar Johnson Road as not part of that agreement, I'm understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that part of it was
Sweet.
not improved.
It's a win.
Yeah.
Seal coated north of
Yeah,
West Main Street. That's what the
heck of a decision back there, wasn't it?
It was a dirt road. Man. Still is.
Well, the whole thing was a dirt road way back in its time, but
So we're gonna have two roundabouts. This one in the Hillbilly roundabout in front of your house.
oh, that
That out,
one's going away.
son. Don't call that a hillbilly round.
That one's going
I'm
away.
offended.
Kind of is.
It kind of is.
It was step one and step two.
That's right, baby steps. Did we learn anything off that one?
Yeah, not to do it.
All right, so let's get this done and get started on the project, is what I say. Go ahead. Bud.
Process really hasn't gone up a whole lot from,
Even pay Kevin's driveway.
you know, up 100,000 since.
That's the county, that's in the
I
county
know it
section.
is.
They have to,
Yeah.
so if he gets,
Make them.
if he makes them pay a bunch of money, that's not our problem.
And the trees, make them trim the trees around your house.
Replace the ones that looks like.
Look at that one down further, they had to replace the whole front line of bushes and trees they took out.
Let's go ahead and vote, Leslie.
Councilperson Miller,
Yes.
Sexton,
Yes.
Stulman,
Yes.
Goodweiler.
Yes.
So this is gonna be
I-
bid out. I'm assuming it's gonna get bid out yet this year.
Yes, they plan to have the bulk of the main line pavement done.
So
You better get
bids, we
cracking.
paid,
It's ready to go.
Shut her down for Hoover Days.
did we pay for the center of?
We paid for part of the center.
Can we move the welcome to West Branch sign and right square in the center of that?
That's a bad spot for it.
Somebody.
You don't want
comes
it there.
flying- Somebody comes flying through and.
The drivers that are impaired seem to have problems with driving around roundabouts. The one on First Avenue in Corville, they end up on top of the limestone because they just go and they don't turn.
I've seen the ones in Mount Vernon, just
Yep,
big trucks just screw this thing and right through.
and it doesn't, up on top of the roundabout, they have to pull them off the,
Like this one in Mount Vernon is kind of flat.
that one in Corville.
You can't do that on
So
some
Dave,
roads.
last question I have, this does take into account a potential turn lane east.
Yes, it doesn't include the paving of the turn lane. It's set up to accommodate a center turn lane east of the roundabout.
Correct.
So if you look at, I don't know if you have the other sheet, but sheet 3.
Yeah, we got it.
So if you look at sheet 3, the way the paving ends, you can see the striping for the turn lane. And you can see the turn arrows at 117 to 117.49. There's a left turn arrow. Just above there is the main line going back to the west. So that has that center turn lane with the striping in there. They would pave that to that point so that if we were to do the turn lane, we would just run right to that pavement. Up until that point, we would just transition the paint striping.
What about sidewalk and trail grading? Grading will be done,
Yes, so
at least
also
on the school side.
on that sheet 3, the 2 dashed lines below the paving. Oh, sorry, side of that, that's the grading for the trail. And if you look at sheet 2, you can see that goes all the way around to the west.
Will they be grading for the sidewalk on the north side also?
There will be on the northeast side, you can see the grading in that area. Just in the area where the roundabout paving is. And with a crosswalk section.
That's just
Perfect.
To get over the trail. So it includes all the items that we've talked about.
Right.
Date.
Yep. Except the
Done a
contract.
pretty good job of catching those updates after we worked through that first kickoff meeting.
Have you heard at all the starting date on the? When they're gonna start, Johnson County gonna start on the other end?
Start off.
Hoover Highway.
When they're actually gonna start on Hoover Highway?
I haven't asked them when that's going to take place. The contractor was just doing infrastructure work, culverts and that sort of thing. Last I heard, didn't do ready.
That's how the power poles have been out of the way, so.
Hopefully
Yeah.
the
they
same time
dropped
they
all
do
the
the
power
interstate.
on it.
I think we'll be able to drive through here.
All right, thanks, Dave. Okay, no city administrator report, city attorney, anything?
Nope.
We just heard from Dave, so you got anything else to add, Dave?
Sure. We've been working with Meadows 3A, coordinating between the roundabout, the Johnson County Road, or the Johnson Cedar Road widening and Main Street turn lane. We're pretty close. They've submitted revised layout for that part 3A today. So I looked that over after we had met with the developer and talked through some things. We've also been working on a number of residential lot site plans. Those folks set up last week. So they're rolling in pretty quickly. Wastewater treatment plant, we were waiting for DNR for concurrence of award. One of the things they were wanting to see was a breakdown, or we bid that project lump sum. Contractor has to submit a schedule of values, which breaks out each division of work, putting the specs and put the price associated with that. That way we do the estimates. They just got that to them, so we should see that here shortly. And then we can get a pre-construction meeting scheduled as soon as we get that back to DNR. Parkside Hills, they had a couple of lots out there that site plans were submitted for, and we've also been looking at the commercial lots out there, trying to get those so everything is approved. We covered utilities, that's the water main, 2 force mains under the bridge. We're still on hold. DNR has asked us to coordinate with the gas utility, and we have a sub-consultant that is supposed to design the relocation, and we keep requesting the update. Just haven't got to it yet.
So there's a gas line under there too?
There's a gas line that runs under the bridge and runs out to the substation in Northeast town.
Gas line to the electrical substation?
There's a
Gas
There's a
substation.
gas
Is that what that is? Okay.
Until we hear back from the gas utility, we keep that project.
That Kinder Morgan or one of the other? Who?
That's a line.
A line.
Or the smaller,
Not a pipeline.
by the pipeline.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Dave. City staff, anyone? Happy they all. Live in person tonight.
So just gonna give an update. We're gonna start on the Lions Field, or the Lions Club shed up at the cemetery later this week, just putting together posts and everything. We'll lay that out and start drilling holes. I don't have the trusses yet, so I'm just waiting on them. We can't do a whole lot without trusses, so we'll have the walls up and get it all shored up, so it's not going anywhere, but we'll just get it ready so we can go with the trusses and we get those. And then the mural is gonna be the next thing we do, so as soon as we put the walls up and while we're waiting on trusses, we're gonna start on the murals. I would assume maybe then the next week, we'd probably be able to start putting it down here, so,
You putting in concrete piers?
yeah.
What have you got for a superstructure to hold that thing?
Well, probably 6x6s, and then that's 2x6 frame. We have 3/4 inch plywood that we'll put on the base of it, and then we'll probably put a angle iron around the edge of it to hold it on. We're gonna glue it all on, but it's in 4 sheets, and it's an 8x16. So it's gonna be glued and probably some screws put in,
Yeah.
but it's got a whole lot of different paint colors, so we're gonna have to
Go through your
glue it,
stash.
put some screws in it, and then touch up paint just to, so.
All right, well, good luck with that.
Roger said he'll come and help you do that.
I did.
Yeah.
I heard
Touch
you.
up paint.
Donate some screws, black and white. All right, thank you.
Beans, you're up there.
I have a question too. You go first.
So what are we doing about the moving the tree waste or whatever it's called? I call it the burn pile, but I don't know what you guys call it.
So right now, we're gonna have it closed. We had it chipped last week. It's gonna be closed. So basically our yard waste pickup's probably gonna get really heavy. We're not gonna have people carrying anything in. We're gonna probably take it all up to the water tower. And we'll have to have it chipped again. When the plant's all done, we'll have it chipped again and then probably truck that out of there. The water tower doesn't. It's our only spot to take it to, otherwise that is what we do. We can't really let the public just dump in there. We'll have so much stuff up there. We won't know what to do with it.
So where are you gonna, I mean, 2 weeks and you guys start picking it up?
So it's just closed right now.
Yeah,
So,
but I mean, you're gonna, when you go around and pick it up, you
We're gonna
guys
haul-
will take it up there.
Yeah, we'll haul it to the water
Okay.
tower and just start putting it there.
All right.
I've had a few people call me about, they want to take out old trees and basically if it's a contractor or somebody like that, we're not gonna take it unless it's chipped. So if they want to chip it and dump it, that's fine, but
At the water tower.
at the water tower, but whole trees, we're not gonna take. We typically take whole trees. That anybody who's a contractor in town that's working on somebody's home or whatever else. we take. We can't do that with what we're faced with. So.
You can do what you just don't.
Well,
You better have another plan.
yeah, well, I'm gonna talk to the county about taking anything here out there and see if they'll let us take that. We already
Cedar
have
Bluff?
some. Yeah, they usually take us, or let us take anything big out there that we can't grind up, because we don't have a place for it. So that's, I'm gonna talk to them about if we can haul just big stuff out there as we go along, so, which we haven't had an issue with that in the past, so.
Is that mountain still out there at Cedar Bluff? Anybody driven by?
It's gone.
It's gone.
I went by today, there's just a small pile.
They were burning
That was on the mountain.
a month ago.
Okay.
I just got done burning it. We're moving salt dirt. We got till June to get that done, huh? Where we at with it?
We haven't done anything yet, so when, I don't know if Bean's back yet or not. When he gets back, I can talk to him and tell him. He gets all this stuff off, and we'll get done before the end of June.
Take it up to the water tower,
Yeah,
spread it out,
yeah.
pile it.
Put it on our pile, we already have one
Yeah.
pile up there, so
Okay. And then do we have to replace it?
we have to replace it, I can't remember exactly. what 6 inches of rock or something like that, that's.
It shouldn't be too hard to find. Anything else for Matt while he's standing here exposed?
Pothole repairs when they get it.
We're gonna do some of that this week, so we're gonna try to get some made.
We pretty good supply on salt for maybe next summer, next winter.
I think we have about
Salt
20
and sand?
20 ton left, and then we're probably around, well, then we're probably around 200 ton of salt sands, and we had decent.
Cool.
To start out the next year.
All right, Mayor and Council, anyone? I guess there's a P and Z meeting tomorrow night. I think Parkside Hills is on one of those, couple of those lots are on the agenda, and lot 3A and 3B of the Meadows, Gary Worley's thing is on the agenda. Yeah, right. I haven't studied it yet. He's asking for approval of the site plan. Remember.
Information. Or maybe not.
That's all I got. Anybody? Motion to adjourn, anyone?
So move.
All those in favor say
Aye.
aye.